Hey guys, my name's Michelle. Welcome to my new channel, Everyday Witchery, where we talk about all things esoteric and a lot of emphasis on witchcraft and actually living your craft every day. Today I want to talk about the fact that you are not a bad witch if you have to start over. So what do I mean by starting over? Right now I'm in a situation where I have not been practicing my craft or developing my craft or really doing much of anything for a couple years. A big part of that is because my husband and I sold off 95% of our possessions, sold our house and everything, and went on a big adventure where we traveled in our RV for about a year and a half almost. It was about 15 months. And because we actually weren't in like a big RV, we were in a little camper we pulled behind our truck. And we had such limited space that I got rid of almost all of my esoteric goods, all of my witchcraft stuff, a lot. There just wasn't the room to bring a lot with us. And now today we have settled down again. We have a new house. Or new to us at least. It's an old house. It's 99 years old, which I'm super excited about. But I find myself in this place where I'm kind of starting over with my craft. And it doesn't make me a bad witch. And if you're in a situation where, maybe you've abandoned your craft altogether, maybe you've gotten overwhelmed and just stepped away from it, maybe you've had a big life event like I have, and your craft just sort of got lost in the mayhem of big life changes. Or, maybe your craft's just not working for you. And you're like, this is just not working. I still feel really called to the craft, but how I'm currently going about it is just not serving me. Any of those things, they can happen to anyone. And I'm here to tell you, you're not a bad witch if you just sort of start over, right? And so, these situations are normal. And I wrote myself a few little notes, so forgive me if I kind of glance down, because I want to make sure I don't forget my points, because I feel like this is really important. I think we shame ourselves a ton when we aren't the perfect witch. And so, at least I know I have. And, I think a lot of people kind of do that in a lot of ways. So, so I just, I want you to know that it's totally normal for these things to happen. I know a lot of times we look towards people who inspire us, that we learn from, and they seem like they never have lapses, right? They're just witchy all the time. And that's probably not even true for them. Everyone has a mundane life, normal responsibilities every day. And it can be a real challenge to stick with our practice, stick with our craft, and especially live it every day. It's a very big undertaking to figure out how we can live our craft and be the witch we are, as well as taking that with us in some way in day-to-day life. Totally normal. If you feel like you need to start over, if you're in a place where it's just your craft is not working, it's totally okay to have a total refresher. And that's the thing. It's a lot of times when we sort of start over, I guess in the sense of the word, it's not like you're totally starting over from ground zero, because if you've been dabbling in witchcrafting some, or have had a craft practice, a lot of that stuff's going to continue to roll with you. But in whatever capacity you feel like you need to kind of start again, or maybe take a different direction, it can be super refreshing. Right now, I sort of realized after having, this almost 2-year period where I just sort of threw my hands up and there was so much going on in my life. I just I put everything aside. I put my craft aside. I put any sort of spirituality stuff aside, because we were traveling constantly. We moved every few days, every week or so, and it was pretty nuts. A lot of fun, but nuts. So I'm in this position now where I'm settled again. I feel a call to my craft, but I also realized the way I was going about it beforehand didn't really work for me. And I think that's a big reason why I've had this sort of on again, off again relationship with my craft, is because I was sort of going about it the wrong way. In my life, I've done a lot of deep work, and I don't like the word soul searching, but for lack of a better word, I've done a lot of soul searching and a lot of deep work and deep thought on what life means in general, and also in that regard, what does the craft mean? Why am I even drawn to witchcraft? Why do I want to have this practice? I think a lot of times we get so wrapped up in the how that we don't stop to make sure we have our why. And so in that place of doing some questioning and some deep work since we've been in this house, which we've only been in this house for like 5 weeks. And as you can see, like, this is sort of my room, my sacred space, my office. This is my area, which I'm super excited. This is the first time I've sort of had a room for myself to do what I want. But as you can see, there's these very bright red paint on the wall here, and there's things I still want to change about it, but I am so excited to be in a house again, and so excited to be able to dive into how do I want my craft to look going forward. I already feel this deep connection with this house, and we're in a totally different region of the country than we've ever lived before, and I'm feeling very, very called by the land, and I'm feeling very called to create this local craft for myself. And I think that's a big part of how I was sort of going about it wrong before. And wrong's not really the word I want to use, but just the way I was going about my craft and my path before didn't serve me as much as it could have, just because it wasn't right for me. So now I'm excited about starting over. I'm excited about reconnecting in this new place. And I'm excited about trying a different branch of the path of witchcraft. So I want you to know, if you feel at all like, oh, I've neglected my craft. Oh, I haven't done anything witchy in years sometimes. I certainly have had years where I've done nothing and abandoned my craft. But it always comes back, right? If we truly feel the call, it always comes back. And I'm feeling it stronger than ever now that we are resettled in this new place. And so I'm starting over. And I'm here to tell you, you are not a bad witch if you have to start over. You're still a witch. You're still as valid as anyone else. And the key is to question your why and question if what you're doing is working for you. Just because it works for someone else doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. There are some witches out there that I follow online, some witches that I've read their books. These are successful people who have published themselves, or they're artists, whatever they may be, that their path does not work for me. I realize that now. I've tried to make them work sometimes, but I realize it's not work for me. And so it really comes down to question why you want, why you feel compelled to, why you do the things you do, what's drawing you to your path. And then really be honest with yourself. Because when you are totally honest with yourself, it gives you those shivers, right? Because that's your truth. That's your truth. Walk the path, the crooked path that's true for you, not for anybody else. Learn from others, be inspired by others, absolutely. But make sure what you're doing is for you and not for anyone else. And that is a perfect reason to start over with your craft if you have to. And that's how I feel like I'm starting over. I have very little things. I'll have to show you some views of my sacred room here, my office. We went to IKEA and I bought a bookshelf because the main things that I held on to were some of my books, not all of them, unfortunately, but the most special ones I held on to. And I have to my side right here is our fold-up collapsible camping chair covered by a sheet. And that's sort of what I'm using as a working table right now because it's all I have. And that's okay. You don't have to have a ton of stuff to be a witch or to practice witchcraft. You just have to figure out what works for you and do that. And slowly with time, things will come together more. Unfortunately, I not made of money, don't have tons of cash just to immediately fill this space how I'd like to, but with time it'll come together. So the things that I do encourage you to do, whether you're starting over or not, I'm sure you've heard this before, keep a journal, y'all. I have this journal. It's not really a journal, it's a covering, and then inside it's these, I don't remember what these are called, Kahir notebooks or something like that. There's 3 of them in here, and what I do right now is I just sit down every day and I make notes of the weather, I make notes of the moon cycle, and then I make any notes of any just how I'm feeling about everything. It's mostly, I mostly try to keep it witchy feelings, I guess. And I'm not really sure how else to say that, but if I'm feeling some sort of connectedness with something, if I'm feeling a call from something, if I've learned something about the land, if I've learned something about just the region in general, tidbits of folklore, which I'm hoping to dive in more and more for this area I'm in now, write those things down. So like a big example today is that I got up this morning, it was just I felt this wonderful tingling of autumn coming on. Even though it's mid-August, it's still hot in the afternoons. I felt that a little bit, so I wrote that down. So write those kind of things down. And before you know it, you'll feel more connected. So start over if you have to and enjoy it. And remember to ask yourself why. And don't get so caught up in the how. Focus more on the why, and the how will come. Talk to you guys next time.